Hi. Last night I was watching TV again. We don't have cable here or, like satellite TV. We just have the regular the normal TV, you know. So it's really limited. So I spend a lot of time with the remote, clicking, clicking, clicking. Oh, okay, we've been through this before because there's only like 6 or 7 channels, aside from weather, the Weather Channel, which those don't count. So I haven't spent a lot of time in the USA in the last several years, and the time that I spent here, I didn't do a lot of watching. I didn't watch, Do you remember being there with Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine? I like to watch, Eve. Well, I don't like to watch, not in that sense of the word. Everything's television for me. Everything is out there. In here, things are a little different. Out there, I'm just kind of watching. Brian doesn't know why I don't like to do stuff, quote unquote. I guess. This week was German week in Fort Wayne. I didn't go. And he kept telling me to go, and I was feeling bad. I was thinking, oh gosh, I should go. Because, here's Prakriti, Mother Nature, is sending the signal, hey, go to German Fest. Speak German with these people. That's what Brian was telling me, and I was like, and I don't know why, but just the thing that came back was there's no reason for me to go. And probably should have gone, but I just don't. It's funny because I don't really have that strong feeling anymore that I'm missing anything, because my life is so deep within me, and I feel connected to everything, whether I speak to people or I see people. And crowds of people are just not my thing, so especially like beer drinking crowds of people, so, which that's what German Fest is about, right? Drink beer. What did it say? It said in the little ad in the newspaper, Trinken, Essen, Gemütlichkeit, which means, basically indulgence to the 10th power. So, okay, I was watching TV. What did I see? Of course, there's always like these police shows, and it's always about murder, It's always about something really gross. Some murder. They're either killing each other or they're trying to steal money. So, it's one of the two. That's the big choice, When you have when you have like a police drama, it's got to be either one of the two things. Somebody's killing somebody, usually, in a really nonsensical fashion, or they're after is the big buck. But the real crimes that are committed in the world, they don't report about those. The real stuff, like, well, should we go into that? How the corporations are wrecking the environment, stuff like that. They don't talk about that because that's, that's not Hollywood. Television just doesn't get into that. So, okay, but what I wanted to talk about was, hang on just a second, I have to get rid of this hangnail because it's driving me nuts. Okay, perfect. Why these shows are on TV? And this is something that people always say, oh, it's just terrible because television is so corrupt and there's so much violence on TV and sex and everything, So, I don't have so much of a problem with the sex part because I figure, the kids already know this stuff anyway. And they're going to do what they're going to do, and I don't think they're going to get any really cool ideas about what they're going to do from television without the opportunity. They need an opportunity. So the sex part doesn't bother me too much. It used to bother me somewhat, but I was seeing this show last night, and it was about a serial murderer who was killing little black boys. And that was kind of disturbing, because the imagery that they opened the show with was all of these little boys in the freezer. They kept opening up these deep freezers and showing the little black boy inside. And it was like, oh my God, why are we doing this? Then I started to think about it. So I didn't watch the show, because to me that's just like, I don't need to, watch that whole thing. Oh, the name of it was Cold Case. I was like, what a pun, It's Cold Case. Ooh. So I switched, around, and I was watching other different stuff and whatever there was available, and just kind of zoning out. And then finally, towards the end of the show, I happened, through my flipping through the channels with the remote, trying to find something. Then I saw the end of it. And in the end, of course, the woman investigator, they always show it like, they always make it that, the person who's doing the investigation is like almost okay, they work in a team, but they're almost like total loners. And then they just don't show how it really works, how much teamwork is involved, how much people depend on each other. And yeah, so it's, the woman star of the show confronts the murderer and says, I know what happened to you. So then they have this flashback, and it shows that what has happened to him in his childhood is causing him to kill these young boys. Okay, psychologically, a fact that people who have been abused in their childhood will abuse when they grow up and get bigger, because they haven't been able to release that stress from their system. So, but what's the point of my conversation right now? My point is that there's a greater truth here that's being shown, and that is that the young man who was the murderer had been abused by some older children, or ones that were bigger than him. He had been a very small child and a weak individual, and the other boys had abused him. So he was paying them back by doing the same thing, taking young children that were weaker and smaller than him, and abusing them. But how it really works is that people who have done some sort of abuse, or have done some karma, let's call it, they've done something, they've started an action, because the whole universe works on the principle of action-reaction. From physics we know that. Okay, that you bump up against one thing and energy is transferred, and that causes the second object to absorb the energy and translate it into something heat or movement or something like this. Okay, so action-reaction patterns, the whole universe is based on that. So in one particular embodiment, let's say in this body I shout at you, okay, now my shouting is energy, and the energy is absorbed by you, by your form, okay? Now, that energy has to go somewhere. Has to go somewhere. And if you are living a perfectly conscious life, you will be able to absorb that energy and neutralize it. That's the point of yoga. But 99 and 9/10, let's say 99 and 99 hundredths of percent of people are not living a yogic life, and they don't have that capacity to absorb the energy and neutralize it. So what they do is they pass it on. And if they're not able to pass it on in the moment, it gets stored up in the system and it gets passed on. But it might get passed on
Strolling
later,
down the
like much later, like in the next embodiment.
And my shadow, not a soul to tell our troubles to. And when it's 12 o'clock